So, this video has been a long time coming. Let me take you back to the faraway land of the year 2008. Barack Obama is about to win the general election, the whole world's economy is in the shitter, and the Casey Cahoots of this era is an awkward, mildly ugly, if extremely affable teenager having just freshly entered his sophomore year of high school.
Fucking Judas.
On my birthday, October 14th, I had my mother drive me to GameStop to pick up a brand new title for the Xbox 360. That game was Dead Space. You know, at the time, Dead Space was some of the most nerve-wracking shit that my virgin eyes had ever seen, and I don't even really remember why I wanted it in the first place. As a young man having subsisted exclusively on a strict diet of recycled Disney VHS tapes until the age of around 12, genuinely stress-inducing media was not exactly in my wheelhouse. It's fortunate that this video is a retrospective and I can just look back on this game from my formative years with rose-tinted glasses and not have to experience the horror of Dead Space again.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Nicole?
No!
You play as Isaac Clarke, so named in reference to the real-world science fiction authors Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke. You and the rest of your crew of the USG Kellyan are being sent on a repair mission to the USG Ishimura, which is a planet-cracking deep space mining vessel that's sent out an SOS beacon and is currently experiencing a communications outage. You're headed there to repair the ship with your tools, and then swing by to see your long-distance girlfriend to repair your relationship with your other tool. After just barely surviving the domestic dispute between your teammates the same way any good boy does, by sitting there and doing absolutely nothing, Isaac and the team are forced to manually crash land the Kellyan aboard the Ishimura, effectively stranding them. The team disembarks to get some assistance repairing the damaged Kellyan, only to discover that pretty much the entire crew has been turned into acrobatic, pointy Cronenberg nightmares of varying shapes and sizes called necromorphs that want nothing more than to make a Jackson Pollock painting out of you. You start the game defenseless, and after a brief sprint away from some necromorphs with the tenacity of Mormon missionaries, you find the first of many makeshift weapons, your trusty plasma cutter. It is at this point the game explains the paradigm by which extermination is possible: targeted flaying and dismemberment of these creatures. Contrapoint to literally every other zombie game out there, your head-clicking skills will not be of any use here. Now physically separated from your team, you will spend the vast majority of time alone aboard the Ishimura. From here, you'll spend most of your time reenacting the classic children's book If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, with a sci-fi horror bent. The Ishimura is a massive dumpster fire, and almost every system you can imagine a massive spaceship having is failing rapidly due to an active sabotage by cultists, necromorphs obstructing systems, or the crew not reporting for maintenance anymore on account of being deceased. So first, you need to replace a tram car to get the tram up and running so you can traverse the ship to get the medical, to get the captain's codes from his body so you can access the Ishimura's administrative systems and figure out what's going on. But once you get to medical, you gotta get some hydrazine and a shock pad from therapy to make a bomb to destroy the barricades so you can get into the morgue to find the captain's body, where you get his codes, which open the computer, where you discover that the engines are offline and the orbit is decaying due to the Ishimura's payloads, so you gotta get them started. But first, you need to get fuel to start the engines and power to get the gravity centrifuge running again. And then, once the Ishimura has stabilized and returns to orbit, the autopilot is heading into an asteroid field, and you gotta go manually calibrate the asteroid defense autocannons, and on again until the mouse looks at the refrigerator and gets thirsty for some milk and a cookie because the life support systems are offline and there is a giant tentacle monster that ate all the food aboard the Ishimura, and that needs fixed next. You get my point. It's this frantic putting out fires.
Fuck! 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 Oh!
Kind of tone that helps keep you moving along when your instincts tell you that taking your time and playing cautiously is the right call, the first of many brilliant gameplay decisions originally made by EA Redwood Shores and kept with this new remake. Another immersive innovation was to move every HUD element outside of graphic settings and quitting the game into a real-time projection from the rig system on the back of Isaac's suit and weapons. His health, resources, map, waypoint, quest log, store, ammunition, everything is done in-universe and in real time, and this helps to maintain your suspension of disbelief and forget for a moment that you can just, turn the fucking game off if your spook tolerances are approaching untenable levels. The Ishimura feels like a real place with all the logistical trappings of keeping people alive in a space colony for you to explore, like hydroponics, engine maintenance rooms, mess halls, bathrooms, medical facilities, and the aforementioned morgue. The juxtaposition of clean, angular, brutalist interior design associated with futuristic sci-fi and what appears to be your mother's cooking, potentially? Growing up the walls is striking, and the cramped hallways of the Ishimura are full of vents and blind turns where necromorphs might be waiting to separate you from your extremities. The ambient creaks and groans that comprise the sound design of the wounded mining vessel make sure you never really know when you're totally safe, and the ship is full of whispered, garbled messages that make you question the mental state of the protagonist, both in his head and sometimes like the ship's computer will say some weird shit to you. It's a suffocating, paranoid atmosphere, and I fucking hate it. Which is to say that it's perfect. This impending sense of doom is made all the worse by the lack of a shotgun. Shotguns in video games are great. Shotguns are like my dad. Loud, reliable, powerful, and they kick the living shit out of you. They're like the comfort blanket of any video game arsenal, and they make you feel safe and badass while you're surrounded by monsters that get in your face. And that philosophy runs anathema to what Dead Space is trying to accomplish. Dead Space's makeshift arsenal of repurposed engineering tools is interesting and appropriately punchy, but mostly awkward to use and largely ineffective at close quarters. This is where the addition of a shotgun would ruin the experience. Getting ambushed by a crowd of necromorphs from all different directions absolutely sucks, and it's a panicked, dangerous situation where you usually end up dead if you fail to control the crowd. Shotguns are perfect in this exact scenario, and I applaud their decision not to have one. So powerful was the original game's effect on me back in the day that it left me afraid to walk around blind corners in the pitch-black basement of my parents' house where my room was located. The darkness and the distance from my family was convenient for stealthily rubbing one out on a 100-year-old creaky hospital bed frame and being antisocial at Thanksgiving, but very inconvenient when my suspension of disbelief was so fucked that I thought I might die in my own basement from zombie space amalgamates. Younger me was so fascinated by the original game that I felt like a stirring in my creative loins. So I got me a primitive capture card and 50 feet of RCA cables to run from my Xbox 360 to the old Windows XP shitbox family computer, pirated my friend's copy of Sony Vegas, and I was off and recording. And then nothing came of it. I'd aggregated an insane amount of footage, wrote down pages and pages of my thoughts, and just quit. I was young and I was scared. I was worried that nobody would like it and that it would be a waste of time. This would become a common refrain for many of the things that I'd later think of undertaking. I knew from early on that I wanted to share my thoughts to create something about Dead Space, but it just never happened. I felt like Isaac standing in that first room where you find the plasma cutter, capable of moving forward, having the tools to do so, and other people begging you, urging you to take that first step, but locked in place by my own apprehension. Beyond the threshold lies uncertainty, and that is more terrifying than any fictional monster. Throughout the almost 2 decades since the original game was released, I've felt stuck in certain aspects of my life. The long, dark hallways of the derelict spacecraft hold a lot to be afraid of, and in the beginning it was hard for me, and by extension my avatar Isaac, to just keep going. I'm neurotic, easily frightened, and experience visceral emotional reactions to shit that is not real and will never have any practical bearing on my life. The feeling of dreading the unknown aboard the Ishimura was almost enough to keep me from even trying to progress. My Isaac eventually got through his struggle with the necromorphs, in contrast with his real-life analog remaining frozen in his struggles with himself. In my younger years, I didn't try out for sports because I didn't think I would make the cut. I flunked out of college because I didn't really believe I was smart enough to even try. I didn't take the initiative to talk to women because I was afraid that I would be rejected. I've avoided taking up any new hobby that truly interested me. because I was terrified that I just couldn't do something that I was truly excited about. My defeatist attitude, fear of rejection, and lack of immediately apparent talent scuttled any real attempts that I had made in the last 20 years to improve myself as a person or learn something new. The shitty old capture card is long since gone, my old 360 is long since dead, and I'm still the same mediocre guy that I've been for the better part of my life, but a formative experience of my youth has once again been placed in my hands on a new system in a new decade with a fancy new coat of paint.
Soon may the guardian come to save our souls and take us home. One day when the fixing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
When I fired up the remake, I had not played any Dead Space game for a very long time. I thought being 32 this year that I would be better prepared for this game and less of a nervous wreck. To no one's surprise, I continue to have the mental fortitude of a giant quivering labia. The only difference is that now I'm old enough to legally buy alcohol and drink myself stupid so I can relax enough to get through it. The experience left me even more impressed than last time. My recent trek through the Ishimura was slow and skittish, every vent eyed with suspicion, every corpse stomped on just to be sure, every corner taken with bated breath, heart pounding. Dead Space's remake has the visual fidelity and sound design chops to exceed the vision of the original, which itself will stand as one of the greatest games of that generation. It'll hold a special place in my heart for helping to galvanize myself towards taking action in my own life. Many people, myself included, love Dark Souls for helping them kind of work through depression, or other video games for helping them get through a rough time in their life. And for me, Dead Space is right up there with them. Call me sentimental. I knew many years ago that I wanted to make this video, and I suppose in its original form it was more about the gameplay and just a general review of the game upon its release back in 2008, but it's kind of transformed over time into this weirdly personal story about how this 2-decade-old, mostly forgotten gem has helped a struggling man cope with his doubts and begin to move forward with life, with his ambitions, and into better lit rooms because I'm not playing in the dark anymore. My message to you is that whatever passions or dreams or goals you have, you can't remain frozen by the possibility of failure or rejection forever. Pick up that instrument you've always wanted to learn, make the career change you've always thought of making. Anything new that you've wanted to learn or do, anything is better than remaining in stasis, frozen in space. If you're still here, thank you for taking this trip down memory lane with me. It's incredibly cathartic to finally finish something that's been percolating in my brain for years, and I'm glad I got to share it with you. If you liked the video and want to see more, hit the corresponding buttons down below. The release of this video and its message should hopefully preempt a more regular release schedule on YouTube and occasional streams over on Twitch if you're into that sort of thing. Thank you for being in cahoots with me.